welcome to the show. I'm Tosh Taylor.
And I'm Jenna Morton, and this episode we are welcoming our fantastic photographer that you may have heard us talk about on our 200th episodes, Ali Touesnard. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so thrilled to have you on this side of the camera this time.
It's odd to be on this side.
It must be weird to be on this side of the camera.
It really is, especially like when the last time we interacted was me capturing you. It's always weird to be on the other side, at the other side, for sure.
Well, we're glad that you agreed to come on this side of the camera.
Thank you for inviting me.
I know that a lot of people who make their living behind the lens or behind the glass don't always have it in them to come on and be the star of the show.
It wasn't always the way that I was. Like, I wasn't always willing to get in front of the camera. It's actually something that I've been working on just in the last 2 years or so, just in really trying to bring body positivity and show that my clients that they should be in front of the camera as well, and that photography is for everyone. It's really forced me to get in front of the camera and be a lot more comfortable. So it's been a lot of fun because I get to experience what my clients are experiencing as well.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And your personality just shines through. It's, I might say, radiant.
I was like, if you didn't go there, I was gonna.
You have to.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yes, radiant photography is, that's your business name, but yes. What a perfect name choice.
Well, thank you. I love it because I love the sun, and that is really what guides my photography is light and like sun flares and sunsets. So radiant really made the most sense.
That's perfect. So let's talk about young Ali.
Young Ali. Oh, this is scary.
This is still young Ali.
This is
I'm not young anymore.
Yeah, sorry. Ali, when Ali was deciding it was time for radiant photography, where did it come about?
So radiant photography has been around for almost 4 years now, but it has humble beginnings in my childhood, as everyone likes to say. Yeah. My mom did some photography when I was a kid, and my dad always had one of those little point and clicks, and I was the teenager with the point and click in my bedroom taking a million selfies of myself and of my guitar and the grass the way it grew, and I always kind of thought that photography wasn't really a career that anybody could have unless you were doing fine art studio portraits, which just isn't my vibe. And so after I had my daughter 5 years ago, I bought a little DSLR just to be able to get better pictures of her, and I loved it so much. So I started offering fall minis that were $50 for an hour. I'd give you everything I took. It was ridiculous, to be honest with you. But it blew up. People loved my work, and people were coming back over and over again and wanting more. And I started making a 5-year plan to make this my full-time business. And that 5-year plan became a 1-year plan because I just got to the point where I had to decide, do I want to do this, or do I want to continue in my current career, because one of them had to give. Mm-hmm. And I figured, following the dream that I never thought could be a dream was worth doing.
Wow. I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and it really just kind of fell together. I really didn't set out to be I'm going to be a photographer. It just, everything kind of came into place, and I just didn't have a choice. It was either I have to give this up or I have to give up the day job. And mm-hmm. I haven't regretted it since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, for people who aren't familiar with your work, you have some very particular styles and particular types of photography that you do. Yes. Talk a little bit about what your niche is.
So I try not to niche too much because I have ADHD, so I love to be able to put my hand in a million different baskets and never have to say no if something excites me. But the most part, I do weddings. That's kind of the bread and butter of the business. And then families is really my favorite thing to shoot. I do a little maternity, newborn. I'll do some portraits. I'll do some stuff events like what we did with you guys. But really families is where I shine. I love working with kids. Before doing this, I was an early childhood educator. So that I really am able to bring that in. I work with a lot of families that have kids with disabilities too, that haven't been able to find a photographer that meets their kids' needs. And so it kind of gives me that extra little bit of help that I can offer having that background. And my favorite thing ever is when a session honestly goes terrible and I'm able to send the parents the photos after, and they're like, wow, oh my gosh, you got this, when did that happen? And they left the session being like, oh my gosh, there's nothing. That's my favorite, because it's that shock factor of wow, look at all these little moments that happen when we don't realize they're happening. Mm-hmm. And those little in-between moments are what makes the world go round.
Yeah, and we've all been there trying to do family photos, and it's not, you know, the years with us growing up going to like the Sears portrait studio.
Oh my gosh.
And you have to, you know, you pose and hold it for 10 minutes.
You're gonna whoop,
Oh my
line,
gosh.
change the background.
So like-
now you're outside.
The chin up and out. And,
Oh, yes, tilt. And,
yeah, it's not fun.
Oh my god, I think I'm having flashbacks.
I know. When I have people from like older generations come to me, they kind of expect that. So when I get them, you know, in a like I kind of get them more into like a certain pose, but then I say just like move, interact with your kids, love them, like kiss them, hug them, you know, just let them be them. And the parents sometimes don't know what to do. They're like, sit, smile. And I'm like, you're not going to love those photos, because when you look back, you don't love the ones where everyone's looking at the camera.
Right.
You like the ones where you see the connection. And that's what I want to capture, is people's connection, people's true selves. And like there's so much radiance within ourselves and within our relationships that gets missed on a day-to-day basis. It's romanticizing the little moments.
It is, yeah, exactly.
It's beautiful, though.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some of the questions you get from families and clients when they're coming to you, because I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of anxiety when it comes to trying to find a photographer for those
Absolutely.
special moments in your life, whether it's wedding or children or portraits, that kind of thing. People tend to have a lot of questions around that.
They do.
So break down some of those myths, some of those,
Sure.
like, help people out.
Sure. So I think a lot of people are stuck in that Sears, you know, Walmart portrait catalog type photos. And so they don't, one, know where to look, and they just go to Google and they just search photographer, or they don't realize that there's so many different styles now. It's not just, you know, clear, crisp images. Sometimes there's images that are more moody or more bright, and there's so many different styles that for every project you have, you can find a photographer to meet that style, whether it's the same one or different photographers for each project. Like Moncton is just filled with so many amazing photographers. There's somebody for every price point, for every style, and I love being able to also recommend to other photographers when I can't meet that style, because I get that question a lot, like, can you edit my photos airy? And it's like, well, no, that's actually not how I do my art, but I'm happy to recommend somebody who can. Like, that's honestly the biggest question I get, is like, can you change your style? But once you've found a photographer you love, it's important to make sure that you ask a couple of different questions. Something that I make sure my clients know is that I'm going to pose you. You don't have to worry about figuring out what you're going to do once you get there. People are very worried that they have to figure that out, and it's not the case. Like, that's my job. I take care of it. I'm going to, you know, tell you where to go and what to do, and you just have to go with the flow. Let me be in charge. Don't worry. Like, I've got you. And that is the biggest tip I can give. Like, when others are trying to lead the session, that's oftentimes when the kids aren't listening or not participating, because there's like that conflict between mom saying this and the photographer is also asking something of me. And I find if I can lead, the kids will listen. And it's so good. And like, really, that's the biggest anxiety people have, is posing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find when you got started, because you didn't go to photography school,
No,
right?
no.
So what has been your biggest challenge? Was it learning how to pose people properly?
Absolutely.
Properly?
Which is funny, because that's the biggest thing that people have anxiety with.
Yeah,
So it was the
yeah.
thing that I struggled the most with. Like, my first year or two, it was like, I would sit at sessions and just blank. And I'd be like, okay, what do we do next? What do we do next? And when I'd have a client that was really like open and we really were vibing, then we would just make the art happen. But when it was somebody who I was really trying to, they needed my assistance, and I was really trying to pull that out of them, it was a skill I just didn't have yet. And it's something too that, like, when you first start photography, you don't realize you need until you're like people think you can just pick up a camera, but what is the person behind the camera doing? Are you directing it? Are you just capturing what's happening in the moment? And I've definitely improved. I've had clients, luckily, that have told me, who have been around the whole time, that they notice a difference, and they like their images better now that I'm getting better at posting them.
Right, and your confidence level is going up too, right?
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. And I have like a roster of poses that I know I can use and variations within them. And outside of posing, I really love prompts. I love movement, like just hold hands and bump hips as you walk down the street, or, you know, do a twirl and then stop and, you know, make a face or whatever. And sometimes it's not that final moment, it's what's happening while you're doing the moment. And the amount of giggles that I get out of people when I'm like, hip bump and go for a walk, and they're like chucking each other across the floor. But it gets the best, most authentic moments. Or like, hey, give me a fake laugh. Like, your body doesn't realize when you fake laugh, so immediately you start real laughing. And people are like, ha ha ha, and the next thing you know, they're all hysterically laughing. And it's so fun to see people's like true self in those moments.
You touched a little bit on the fact that there's a real community here and that you're happy to, recommend someone who matches someone else's needs. Can you talk a little bit about that sense of community and collaboration?
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people probably assume there's a lot of competition.
Yes, absolutely. And we are like so lucky here in Moncton that the photographers, for the most part, are very much community over competition. We all really get that there is a price point and a style for everyone. Very few of us charge the exact same, and very few of us have that similar of style, that you really can look for somebody that you identify with. And as a business owner, I recognize that, and as an artist, I recognize that if I don't connect with you, we're not going to get the images you want. Like you really need to like the person you're working with. Like, even for weddings, I make people do what I call vibe check, because I want to know that you like me. You're going to spend your whole day with me. Like, your wedding day, you spend more time with your photographer than your husband. And to me, if you don't like me and we don't get along, it's going to make your experience not as good, and it's going to be harder for me to get those images out of you. So not only do you have to like my style, but you kind of got to like me, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not going to get along with everybody, and not everyone's going to love me. That's just life. So I would rather send to another photographer that maybe is their vibe or does offer the style that they want, because without that, I wouldn't have anyone else to send them. Like, I never want to say to a client, I'm not available, or I'm not your style, and just leave them there. I want to send them to the next spot who might be able to meet their needs, because we're all just out here trying to capture these amazing moments for people and for our people. And we all have the people that are attracted to our business and that come back to us. And sometimes they're going to inquire because they don't know any better, and find out through the process that they're not right for us. And that's when that community comes in. And it's so supportive. We don't have a lot of like beautiful locations around Moncton, so we help each other find spots and, really just lift each other up, sharing each other's work. It's really, I don't know what it's like in other cities. I hope it's the same, but we're pretty lucky here that we've got so many great photographers that want to support each other.
That is cool. You touched on spots, which is something I wanted to ask about. How do you find the spot? And then
do you
like,
covet it?
Yeah. Do you hide it? And then also, it's like, how often are you? Because, like you said, your taste changed, your vibe changes. Like, how often can you use a spot until you're like, okay, I photographed, in Shediac on the beach 1,000,000 times. I'm done with that. Like, how do you know, or do you kind of vibe off the family?
It really depends on the client. So I kind of put the ball in the client's court as far as what vibe they want for their session. I use vibes a lot. I love vibes.
That's cool. Yeah.
All the good vibes with radiant photography. But I want to know what they want out of their images. So I'll ask them, where are you putting your photos, if they're not sure what location they want. Or because some people might want the beach, but then they've got maybe a greenish room that it doesn't look right in, or they want to wear red, but they're putting it in a blue room or something like that. So that helps guide the location if there is something specific they're using for, or if they just have a dream. Like, some people are like, I really just want to photograph by the water, or like, can you find me a clearing in the woods? And so if there's a specific want, I will go out and look for it if I don't have one. But if it's just, I want something woodsy, then I'll kind of go through my roster of places that I know. And if I feel inspired to shoot any of them, those will be the ones I offer. And if I'm at that time not feeling inspired by what I know, I'll go out and look. And I spend a lot of time driving like the outskirts of Moncton and just looking like with my head on a swivel, looking. So if you see me going like this, just drive along. I'm just looking for spots, okay? But just, looking, and my head's on a swivel. And I don't take clients anywhere that I haven't vetted. So I get out of my car, I walk it, I make sure that, there's not a bee's nest going to be there when we go to shoot our session, or, a big, huge mud puddle. So I try my best to get out and, make sure that the session's going to be accessible, so I can also let the client know, hey, what's your mobility like? I want to meet you where that is, because for maternity clients, sometimes that mobility is really low. Or, for family sessions, if it's they got the older grandparents, the mobility can be low. So then we need somewhere that maybe it's right off the parking lot. So there's a lot of factors that kind of play in more than just what's the most beautiful, for sure.
And then getting permission from property owners too, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure sometimes that could put you in some sketchy situations.
For sure, for sure. I try to only use public areas or areas that like you really can't tell who they belong to, but like my point of view is usually, what are they going to say? Leave? So then we leave.
Yeah.
As long as something doesn't say no trespassing, or like I for sure don't know that I'm not supposed to be there, then I usually will take the chance. And then if I've never had it happen, but if somebody asked me to leave, then obviously we would leave. But I've also had properties before where owners will come out and be like, isn't it beautiful here? Thanks for using this. Like, they know that they've got beautiful property. I wish that more people that had beautiful property would like share it, because there's sometimes I drive like up Ammon and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these fields. I need to go to these fields. But the houses are right there and I'm like, they're going to be watching me.
Do you ever just like go knock on the door and be like, hey, you've got this awesome field?
Absolutely. I've definitely pulled over onto the side of the road and like asked a man out on his lawnmower if I could shoot in his yard before.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You honestly, you have to be kind of bold when it comes to locations. You have to be willing to ask, and like different spots. Like, I know some people I've shot like in different businesses within Moncton, and like just to be, bold enough to ask them. A lot of times they love it. Like, a lot of businesses are happy to let you shoot there and like use the photos. I just did an elopement at the winery, which was wonderful.
Oh, I saw those
Like,
photos.
what a cool
they were
spot.
so good.
Gorgeous.
What a cool
Oh my
spot
goodness.
to get married, eh? Like,
Yeah.
and they're not from here, so they had known about this winery, wanted to go there. They even got matching like plus and minus tattoos
I
because of
saw
Magnetic
those.
Hill. I was like, what?
Oh, it didn't even dawn on me that's what it was
Yes.
for.
So
I was
good.
thinking of like batteries, like
No,
the plus and minus
magnetic
sign on a
hill.
battery, but it's,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Isn't that the
That's
cutest
very
thing?
cool.
But if you don't ask, you never know, right?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know if the winery allowed
Weddings or
and
anything, yeah.
So yeah, but when it comes to spots like that, obviously people know where you're shooting. But when it comes to the woods, sometimes it's better to keep spots to yourself. Public spots, or like I'll give general areas, but sometimes, depending on who's asking, I'll, either give them the spot or kind of give them some other ideas. But there's obviously some spots that I've vetted and found for myself that I'm like, I just want to keep this. You gotta have a little bit of exclusivity, right?
Oh, yeah, there's gotta be. Yeah, just a wee bit. When it comes to seasons, because she mentions the color, like the wall painting, and so we tend to only do Christmas photos, and then we have like a really big one that we print every year of the girls, and it goes up on the wall in the kitchen, or the dining room, whatever you want to call it, and then it's like July, and I'm looking at a Christmas photo. And I always
So you need one to switch out.
well, that's it, and that's kind of like when it comes to seasons. Is there an ideal season? I know, because like in the fall, everything
Yes.
is fall colors.
Yeah.
Winter, there's snow. And then summer, you could potentially be in shorts in
Yeah.
the picture. So like, does that leave spring? That's it. There's just like this is
It
your
really
good time.
depends on what you want, right?
Okay.
So if you want those like dreamy, like sunsetty, glowy photos with flowing dresses, then yeah, you're gonna want spring or summer for sure. If you like that, like, stark white with the subject being really standing out, or in a snowstorm, like, then obviously winter. But if you love those fall colors, like everybody, that's when everybody's booking, right?
Yeah.
Is the fall, either the apple blossoms or the leaves. Like, those are the big ones. But I honestly like May right till the middle of October is my favorite time to shoot. But I will be found in a snowstorm multiple times. Love doing photos in a snowstorm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like thinking through our family photos in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, no, we did our engagement photos in
Yeah.
the winter, and then our wedding was in the summer, and then our first big set of family photos was in the fall.
Yeah.
And we had the kids dress up in their Halloween costumes.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. We did pretty photos,
Yeah.
pretty clothes, matching outfits.
And then switch.
Then the outfits went on, and it
Cute.
was like, yeah, whatever happens now.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Now I'm like, yeah, that was like almost 10 years ago. We probably should get some more photos.
I got you. I have some people that will book every year, or maybe sometimes twice a year. They'll book every season, and then they have a frame and they just change it out.
Yeah.
So that they have their photos for every season. I've noticed that more with couples because kids change too much to keep going back to the beginning every time.
It's very true, though.
Yeah.
They grow significantly. I don't know what happens there. I guess we keep feeding them.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Time is
voila.
a thief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question, like you just mentioned, is like you've had people that probably started as just couples, and then
Yes.
you get engagement, and then wedding, and then maternity and
Absolutely.
like over the 4 years, I'm sure you've seen some significant literal growth.
Oh my goodness. Just yesterday I shot a newborn session that I shot their wedding last summer, and they didn't know they were pregnant at the wedding. And so like I just shot their maternity in the winter, and I shot their newborn yesterday, and those are the clients that really make my heart full, because they continue to come back. And like I said, I understand there's styles for everybody, but when I've created that connection and they love my work and they love working with me and they want their kids to know me so that they're comfortable, those are the clients that really make me tick, because they're the ones that help me get up in the morning and keep doing this job. They know the value of my work and they want to continue having that work. And I absolutely love it, yeah. And I just only been doing weddings for 2 years now, so I haven't done a lot of like wedding right through, but I've had at least 3 where they were pregnant at the wedding, so we've already done the newborn and maternity.
Love it.
Yeah, people aren't waiting anymore. I find the wedding industry has been very disrupted with COVID, and we are now in a new era of weddings where people are just living their life, and I love it.
It's so neat. You said something there that I don't think I'd ever kind of thought of before, but that idea of finding your family photographer when your kids are young, so they get that familiarity with you.
Absolutely.
Like you say, as they get older, it is easier to pose them and easier for you to know that family and know, oh, this kid likes this, I have to do this with this kid.
Yes.
To have that continuity, I think is something that, it never really crossed my mind, and it certainly, I'm sure, did not cross the minds of our parents who used to take us to the department store.
That's right.
You want to forget those ones.
Which was the thing then, like people didn't do this kind of photography publicly or commercially like this back then.
This emotive photography is really a newer concept, like really capturing more emotions and less just people's likeness, which I think really just says a lot about where we're moving with accepting ourselves, because we're not just trying to capture how we look in photos, we're trying to capture how we feel in photos, which is a challenge for sure, because that's something we've never done before, but it's also so beautiful to watch because it's no longer just people like this. It's really seeing authentic moments, and like you can scroll your Instagram feed and be like, whoa, like that gave me a visceral reaction. And I love that. I love that we can tell so many stories through photography more than just smiling at the camera.
Yes, not just that snapshot in time.
Right. Because I'm guessing your kids, that's not that, like smiling at the camera.
No.
Like this,
no,
right?
It is not.
Right?
No.
So, and when you look back on
smile,
them, people think that that's what they want now, but when you look back on them in 30 years, you're not going to care if they were smiling at the camera. You're going to want to see their dirty little fingers rubbing on the windows and, them kissing you so much that your face is slobbery. Like, those moments are going to be the ones that are beautiful, and I'm not creating moments to be enjoyed now. That's a happy byproduct, but I'm creating moments to be enjoyed for years to come. And whether they remember who took them or not, those photos are going to be enjoyed and passed down. And that matters so much to me, that those will continue to live on.
I think probably something you hear all the time is that you get a lot of photos because mom's never in them.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot more now. So thank you for doing things like that, because I know that's the only way I end up in any photos at all. But we do have to wrap up the show. So can you tell people where to find you so that moms can be in the photos?
So you can find me on Facebook under Radiant Photography, or on Instagram at radiant.photography. You can also email me at ali@radiantphotography.org.
Fantastic, and I hope everyone goes and checks out her work, because it will bring joy to your life just to have her coming across whatever social media it is you use. And we hope that you will tune in again next week. We'll be back and watch our feeds for some more photos that Ali took of us as well.
Very
Thank you
excited.
for that.
We'll
Take
see you
care,
next
everyone.
time.